Hello, it is Sunday the 28th of May and we are waiting for the futures to open. Now normally that would be a huge excitement and the start of the trading week, but because in almost all of Europe and in the United States it is a holiday, their futures will open, but they will then close at noon US time tomorrow. So it will only be the futures open, there will be no cash market. So we will get a good idea of how the markets are going to react to the news that President Biden and Speaker McCarthy have reached a tentative deal to raise the debt ceiling. Bitcoin has rallied pretty nicely on the news and crypto has lifted with it, but it's kind of hit our bearish target, and so we really need to see what's going to happen here. We may pull back and wait for the bigger market to open, but if there is a big rally, in stock indexes, Asian trading and the futures could lift everything. Just a warning that the futures markets will close at noon US time tomorrow. That's on the 29th, so 12 p.m. Central Time, which is of course 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have done this weekend in Bitcoin and where we are at. So when we started this is a 4-hour chart of Bitcoin. I'm going to take these extra momentum indicators. On pretty much most of the momentum indicators, we are pretty oversold, but we always knew that we would get a big rally if there was once the debt ceiling was done, and it was all about whether this is going to be a bottom or not. So we have been sideways in Bitcoin in this sideways range basically since the 12th of May, so 2 weeks sideways. We were looking at this as potentially an ABC correction. We went above this 61.8 level and we've reached our second target, which was the top of the range and the 4-hour 200 moving average and the equal measured move levels. So we've got an ABC. So we really need to push beyond that for this to be technically the bottom that we're looking for. And if we do push beyond that, where are we likely to go? Well, if we draw this as a channel, we could say the 1272, 28,200, but ideally for this to be a bullish wave and the look of a wave 3, we kind of need to go beyond that to 28,850. Maybe we should be drawing our channel like this. Maybe the false one was like this. I'm going to extend this a bit and get it up here like this. So potentially, third touch, false breakout, 28,800. But this is pretty tough resistance. I would love to see Bitcoin get to the top of this channel and this confirm that the bottom's in and that we're on our way up again. I know that there's a huge amount of uncertainty about what's coming. All of the rate hikes, whether that's going to cause a recession or not. And I'm really excited to see if Bitcoin will go the other direction. In other words, other markets fall and Bitcoin can rally if that happens. So for now, where are we at? We are at important resistance at this point. We either need to see a breakout above it and this to be support, this 4-hour 200 moving average. And just like we did here, and I don't think it can't happen, here is what we did when we rallied on the 2nd of May. Resistance, pulled back, got above this moving average, it was support, we carried on higher. Here, this was very violent on news, and so, we can't count that. But normally, these, especially the 4 hours, is a pretty good alt killer. It's pretty good support and resistance normally. Resistance, and then so on. So that's what I'm looking for in Bitcoin. If you have been long over this weekend on anticipating this news, I just want to say, when we had the debt ceiling problem in 2011, they got the deal done, the market rallied, and then 2 days after it was done, the market absolutely cratered on the credit rating change. Sometimes, I don't know how anybody who I don't know anyone who thought it wasn't going to get done, and it's done. So we need to be a little bit careful. And one of the reasons that I'm a little bit cautious is, and the market I'm going to be watching tonight, of course, is the NASDAQ. Now, when I look at this NASDAQ, let's go to the weekly chart. In the NASDAQ, which has been so bullish, we had one upside target, 14,374, which is a back test of this 236 fib. So we've gone 61.8, 236. And from this high to low, 236 fib as well. This is a weekly chart. If we look at our monthly, this looks super bullish, doesn't it? Now, it's just one of those levels where we may see a little bit of a pullback. And if we were to, remember, 61.8 levels can be a little bit messy. So we could go quite a bit above this, but we have to close above it if we're going to keep going on the daily. So 14,367. So that's what I'm going to be watching for. I wouldn't want to see a spike above and a close back below such an important confluence of support and resistance levels. And if we look left here at this level, it's not just a fib. It was the low in October 2021. And on this here, we can see that it's quite important support and resistance. Spike low here, 4th of February, high here on the 3rd of March. So it's a pretty important support and resistance level, and that's the main one that I'm going to be watching to see our index is going to keep going higher from here, and that's the level I'm watching. 14,367 then in the NASDAQ. It may be that the deal's done, the market doesn't go that high and people take profit. The other thing, of course, we have got is potentially, like if this is a, potentially this is a sideways wedge and we haven't made a new high here in this S&P. That's a bearish way to look at it. This is still consolidation and we're still in it. The bullish way to look at it is this 50% level where we double top, spike high here, rounded retest here, was now support when we got above it, and so we could be continuing higher in this S&P, and 4,309 is where we're going. But again, we really kind of need a new high, so that's what I'm going to be watching on the futures. And if they push through this resistance, I think there's a very good chance that Bitcoin could push through this resistance as well and keep going, and we are not going to panic. We're not going to have any FOMO if that's the case, because we're going to buy pullbacks and it will all be good. Potentially we've got, I don't think it's a very good 5 ways up, but anyway, where would we be bearish again? Back underneath this hourly swing low. We need to stay in an uptrend. That's 27,000 basically in Bitcoin. Back underneath that would be a bit of a problem. And then underneath this 61.8 level, 27,013. So if this is an ABC in Bitcoin, we've gone A, B, C. So, this 61.8 level, 27,013. Underneath that, close underneath that would be bearish for this ABC. And we'd still, unfortunately, be in a sideways range in a downtrend. Bigger picture. I'm still thinking Bitcoin bottoms. There's a lot of charts that I'm watching for future indicators. One of them is Litecoin. We'll talk about them I'll talk about that one in the end. Litecoin has halving in 70 days, which will be quite interesting to see how that goes. So let's take a look at ETH. Now in ETH, not quite in the same position as Bitcoin, not quite breaking out to new highs. And if we take a look at our 4-hour, in fact, it's underperformed a little bit. So if we go from this swing low and we count this as an ABC, then potentially we're at that 61.8 resistance level, holding above it, and we've got more upside. 1894 would be our next upside in ETH dollar. And of course 1894 is an 1889, so around 1890 1894 is our key resistance. It's the daily 50 moving average, and the moving averages are lined up bearishly. It is the equal measured move level, and it's the back test of this 236 fib. So for me, ETH looks like it's all set up to push higher, and that 1890 1894 level is where I would look for next. However, it's a little bit toppy here, isn't it, in this weekend range against the high that we made last night, sort of Asian trading Saturday night, Sunday morning. But if we break above that, if everything is really bullish, that should be our next upside target in ETH. And that also is the equal measured move level. So right now, I think because Bitcoin's at resistance and ETH is not, I think ETH potentially has a little bit more upside. So there are some other exciting charts this weekend. One of them is Ripple. So in Ripple, we had been looking at this downtrending channel that we had been in since the end of March. This is a 4-hour chart. We had one touch up here, 4 touches on the bottom, and we were in this sideways consolidation, a beautiful 3-wave pullback, and then a breakout, pushing higher in Ripple. Now, if Ripple is going to be like there is the potential that we've got a kind of nice inverted head and shoulders pattern here, and potentially it's a little bit woolly, but potentially we're breaking out. As you know, whenever you do that, the most important level then is horizontal levels. So I'm going to draw these highs in, because on the left here, because those are our trend levels, and they should really be our first target. And also we should put in fib retraces and see if they overlap. So high to low. Look, actually they give us this level here, 38.2, 0.476. So when I look at this on the low time frame, I want to know, can we break and hold above 0.476? Or in Ripple, do we need to do a bigger A, B, C correction and then break above it? But either way, above 0.476, the next upside target is going to be 0.497, which is the big 50% level. And then we'll find out if this is a nice inverted head and shoulders bottom against this daily 200 moving average or not. Now, when head and shoulder, I know I say this all the time, when head and shoulders patterns fail, it's because they are an ABC correction. That would mean 1, 2, 3. So we need to be a little bit careful that that's not what we are looking at here. Now, if I draw it this way, so the bearish one would be these previous highs and the 61.8 level, 0.483, and then 0.508. If we stall there and see another leg lower, it's possible in Ripple that we're just, going sideways, flat moving averages, and that's going to be, pretty important bearish resistance. Above 0.508, retest the highs and potentially break out. Now, I always said we need to watch out for insider buying, because we don't really, most people won't know what's going on. These lawyers and the SEC, they could have private negotiations, they could agree a settlement, anything could be going on that we don't know about it, but insiders could be knowing and could be buying. So if you're long of Ripple, 0.483 and then 0.508 is where I would be nervous about a reversal. I really wouldn't want to see one here. So if you've got one of those Ripple lottery tickets, if we get up here and fail and then got back underneath 0.483, that would be your bearish signal. For now though, it looks pretty good. It looks really good bottomy on the 4-hour, and we don't necessarily it's not necessarily a bottom. It's a lot of indecision, isn't it, with this lawsuit. My worry is that this is our first swing. We have a 3-wave rally up here, and we do another swing back to the bottom of this channel. So that's why 0.508 for me is going to be really important. But if you're short-term trading, you know, that's quite an interesting long if everything else is going to rally. Now, the other thing I was looking at today is ADA at really important resistance. Remember, we'd been looking at this sideways range. For me, though, so this is quite a big deal horizontal level in ADA. This horizontal level, these lows, look, this was the head and shoulders neckline. We're back testing. So back above it again would suggest this was not a bearish head and shoulders. It was a big A, B, C, and we're on our way up again. So that would be kind of quite a bullish look, wouldn't it? Reversed at the 200 moving average. Lots to like about this in ADA. Third touch of a trend line. We are then going to say, well, how are we going to do from this high to low? And here's the 236 fib. So, you know, little by little, we're breaking these resistances, aren't we? So if this is not bullish, and if this is just, again, an ABC correction, so we're going to measure this first swing, project it from this low, 0.384, first target, and then our next bullish target is 0.392 and 0.4. So short term, after this huge, lovely bullish day, let's put it this way, we're going to try and buy a pullback, and we would be wrong if it closed back underneath 0.3725. So that's where we're wrong. And above that, we need to see. So for example, here at the moment, we've got a double top pause on the hourly. So if we just get a nice three-wave correction that doesn't close underneath this 0.37 level, that would be quite a nice buy for a breakout of this level and see if we can get our more upside. Remember, 0.384 would be a bearish last kind of fail, but above that, much more upside in ADA. So big level, not a buy right here tonight. Let's watch for a three-wave correction that doesn't go back and doesn't close underneath 0.37 for ADA to continue higher. Let's take a look at a few more. ADA would be quite a good leading indicator. So many, look at the DOT, we'll talk about that one in a minute. So many looking pretty good, I think, anyway. Let's take a look at MATIC. Now MATIC had a lovely big, let's take all of our charts. We're looking at a daily chart. Let's start with a weekly. And we'll start with fresh eyes, because first off, we've got a lovely bullish cross of our weekly moving averages. That's a very good sign for more upside in ADA, in MATIC. My problem is, though, this was an 886 fib bounce, and we hit our target of the 50, and instead of keeping going and finding support from 50, we reversed. Normally, if we go above it, you look for the 236 fib, which would be up here next. So I'm a little bit flat and undecided, and when we look at these moving averages, we can say, you know what, they are pretty flat too. So the more bullish view would be that this is 1, 2, 3, and so we've gone 1, 2, 3, and then three-wave correction complete here in MATIC. And if I measure it from this high to this low, project it from up here, here's a really nice 61.8 fib level that we are bouncing from. The problem for me on the daily with these daily moving averages is since we dropped here into a downtrend, they were resistance, resistance, resistance. Unless we get back above them and recover them, this is a bounce and a downtrend, and there is a possibility that we fail here and continue, you know, keep going lower. So I'm not going to be super bullish yet, but I do think this bounce looks good, but so did this one here, of course, and it was just, you know. So we need to be a little bit cautious. We could say, look, 1, 2, 3 up, and then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, and so our target for this bounce, even if we're bearish, should be back to the highs of this wave 4 and this 200 moving average. So, and back to that round number 1. And so I don't think there's any harm in buying, and if we put our fib retrace level on 0.994 is the also, so basically the round number 1 is also the 236 fib. So that should be, you know, your first target on the upside. And then if we can get above that, then we can talk about, yes, this whole 3-wave down movement could be finished and we're on in a bigger bounce. Now, will the trendline traders be freaking out here? Let's see. The people who look at trend lines will be going, oh, is this breaking out? Again, unless we break, yes, it could be. Let's hope they will buy it and give it some momentum. But your first target, again, is still going to be the round number 1, these previous highs and the 200 moving average. And then only above there would MATIC be going up again. So I don't think it's a terrible bounce buy. I think it is a possibility with this lovely 61.8 ABC thing that this is a significant low with much more upside. But really own above that round number 1, you know, which is a massive support and resistance level. Look, these highs, these lows, that's going to be the key level for MATIC. Okay, let's take a look at Arbitrum again. Arbitrum, another one. So just like ADA, so many are at such important levels. So previous highs, 236 fib, above the first time since, gosh, the 20th of April, Arbitrum is back above the daily 20 moving average. That points to more upside. And it does point to this daily 50 moving average, which is at 1.29. The problem is, and that's a lovely, you know, move from here, isn't it? The problem is that this potentially is a 61.8 fib level. So if we measure low, high, project it from here, this potentially is important resistance. And you can see, if we look at this on the 4-hour, that since we hit this, which was in Asian trading Saturday night, Sunday, we've been going sideways at this level. And it's an important one. You know, it's this high here. It's just one of those levels. So we could see a bigger pullback here. Let's see. We need to see on short term a close and hold above 1.209 and then 1.296 next. I'm going to go to daily candles and look at this 236 fib. I think if we hold 1.19 on our correction on a daily close, that we could be looking pretty good. This is what I mean if you look at it on the daily. So, you know, like 50% of this daily candle in this 1.19. I'm not saying we can't look at underneath it intraday, but if we were to hold above it short term, that would be pretty bullish for me. You know, it wouldn't negate this green candle and we would still be going up. I would be bearish though back underneath this daily 20 moving average and these highs, and that's at 1.16. So ideal support 1.19 and bearish underneath 1.16 in Arbitrum. Yeah, in fact this 1.16 is pretty important, isn't it? So sideways, as long as we don't close underneath that, still going up, but we could see more correction sideways. If everything blasts tonight though, it may be that money gets taken and put out of these smaller altcoins that have done really well, like Arbitrum, and gets put into Bitcoin and the bigger ones if there's a big move. So we need to watch out for that. So do I like this? I love it, but at this point we really need to push above 121 and then we can see 129, 130 next for Arbitrum. Next one we're going to look at is DOT, which I just mentioned. Again, another one. Testing the highs. What I really like about DOT is, just like Arbitrum, so building this sideways range, gosh, since the whole month of May. And now here we are at the sideways. I'm going to look at this close level, but actually I think we should look at this high for our target. our bearish target. So that's the previous swing high. So that's the last high before the lowest low. And also, if we go down to the 4 hour, you can see here, it's the 4 hour 200 moving average. Also, if I measure from this low to this high in this correction, project it from here, that we are coming up in this area on the equal measured move level. So quite a lot of resistance in DOT. 5.49. So between 5.49 and 5.52. That's what we have to get above if we're going to go up. Now, I really do like how this sideways. The problem is, though, it's not a bullish reversal unless we get above there and that equal measured move. But if we do, where are we going to go? Well, first off, we're going to go to the 200 and the daily 50 at 5.78. And that would put us above the 236 fib for this whole move lower. And then I think, you know, we might have a pullback, but we can, it's much more realistic to talk about this being a bottom when we're on our way up again. So DOT looking all right, but it's not quite the bullish reversal confirmation that we need. This is another one where, you know, we could see money going into Bitcoin and ETH if it gets a really good move on. Now, Litecoin for me, as you know, I think Litecoin's quite an interesting leading indicator, and Litecoin also has its halving in 70 days, which is quite interesting. I'm a little bit concerned in Litecoin that we're in a big wedge, but, and by that I mean that this was a first swing lower. This is either, you know, we're going to do this, or make a new high and do this, or potentially this is not a wedge, and this was a big wave, you know, potentially a wave one, and we've had a 3-wave rally, and now we're going to see a really strong wave 3, and this start of it is a nice inverted continuation, inverted head and shoulders pattern. So clearly this is our neckline of our inverted head and shoulders pattern at 94.4, and you know, whenever you close above the daily 50, you usually see more stronger upside, and when we've done that before, we've done that to the next resistance. So these previous highs, you know, this zone with today's close above this daily 50 moving average should see really strong more upside. That's what it's pointing to in Litecoin. Let's make sure on the lower time frame that nothing else is, you know, we need to obviously watch out for a double top, but with so much going on and so much optimism about the debt ceiling and everything else, I think it would be really good to see another swing higher in Litecoin, and I'm looking for a retest of these highs. Now, a quicker way if you're looking for short-term levels, so on the hour, we're looking at an hourly here. So I'm going to put my fibs on from this high to this low. These are the red ones. Let's hide this. And we go level to level. So you can see here at 61.8, we pull back. The low was exactly the 50%. So holding above this 61.8 takes us to the 786 next, and then potentially the 886. And we'll just go like this. We'll just go level to level to level with these fibs. So if we continue higher here, break higher, our first upside target in Litecoin is going to be 92.3, then 93.5, and then, you know, we see if we make a new high and next leg up, and then we can talk about this head and shoulders pattern and how exciting, and how we're going to new highs in a wave 3 of 3, which is normally the strongest for Litecoin. So that's one that I'm watching as well at this 61.8 level at 90.8. Now sometimes, you know, especially at a 61.8, you get that bigger sideways thing. So I mean, all the momentum says higher to here, but until we actually break out, you know, we could still do this, and we could still do that. You know, if we broke underneath it, we could do that 38.2 before we go higher. But But yeah, every time frame I look at, I think everyone's waiting to see what happens on the open in the futures and in Asian trading to see if the news of the debt ceiling is really going to lift these markets much higher. So that's what I'm looking at in crypto. I hope that's useful. I will be back with a bigger update tomorrow. And really, it'll be quite interesting to see how the markets and the futures process the news.